can I even do this? Oh. And we're back. It is COMP125. It's week 6. I'll modify this in a second. Week 6 of our broadcast. You can see how crazy things get when you're not paying attention. I'm still back in week 5. It's week 6 of our crazy broadcast for client-side web development here at Centennial College in the summer 2016 semester. Whew. Okay. Luckily, I'm able to modify. See, you discombobulated me. It's all your fault. Luckily, I'm able to go through and modify my videos afterwards, so it doesn't matter. The name of the video doesn't matter at all, actually. It's just the address. All right, so let's start off. We're going to go back to COMP125. We're taking lesson 5, and we're duplicating it again, like we've done in the past. And we're modifying it so we can use it today. So we keep what we had in lesson 5, making lesson 6. You know how to do it for your machine now. This should be old hat. This is not something that we're doing that's new. I'm just going to grab this and populate this. There are some new features of Visual Studio Code. Hey, we came up with an update. So we've updated Visual Studio Code. There's some new features that are built in. I should talk about them today because this is how fast the web moves, right? 1 week it's one way, and the next week it's another way. That's just how it is, and that's why the web, in my opinion, is the most difficult platform to develop on, right? You may think it's easiest because it's easy technology, HTML and CSS for presentation and so on, but actually this is what makes it difficult. If the web was stable, and that would be bad actually, but let's suppose the web was stable like C# or Java, right? They're fairly stable development environments to develop in C# or Java. There's some things that'll keep moving, but they don't move so fast. Then I think it'd be easier, but I think there's so much development going on right now in JavaScript and HTML, especially on client-side technologies and so on, that it becomes very challenging to keep up. All right, let's do a couple things. First of all, my README file, for me to make it to lesson 6, I got to do this, lesson 6. Obviously, this is not around, we're still doing document object model, but today, notice that in our presentation, should go to my presentation here that I got up. I got a new PowerPoint that's up online for you guys to view. This is very important stuff today. We're going to be talking about again. But again, it's not. Is it the most important? I mean, it's important for you guys to know how to manipulate web forms. Like I'm talking form controls and so on. So this is all about enhancing and validating forms. We're talking about validation techniques this week, right? Which is kind of cool. Actually, it's a good lead-in into what we're going to be doing next week for the exam or test. Can't call it exam because that would be bad. So I'm just going to change this. So project to demonstrate one of these. So I'm going to say we're going to kind of do one of those. I'm going to put it there. So again, it's a project to demonstrate enhancing and validating forms for COMP125 at Centennial. We'll say client-side, just to be different, client-side web development. Client-side web development. Okay, so that's one. The other thing is, I think in my index at HTML, I may have something like, maybe I do, maybe I don't. No, I think I'm okay with that one. So I think I haven't changed that one. So I'm modifying my README form. I got to do that. And I want to create a new, because now I made this lesson 6. I need to make a new GitHub, and I need to kill my my default repository that this comes with. So now this is what I normally do. Check this out. Normally I would right-click here and go open in terminal, right, or command prompt. But with the new version of Visual Studio Code that just got released, I can go to View, and if you notice, there is something called Toggle Integrated Terminal, right? Click on that, and then I can go down here, and you see I have a terminal window, right, where I can actually do it right here in Visual Studio Code. This is a new functionality, right? That's come with Visual Studio Code. So I can go in there and do my commands and whatever. And I can adjust my terminal size to include whatever I want, right? So it's clear again. And what I want to do here is I want to kill my repositories. If I go ls, and you can see that I've got my my regular things here, my files. If I go ls-al, just like I did before, I can see that I have a .git folder that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to say remove -rf .git. I'm doing everything in Visual Studio Code. Okay. You can see that it's gone.
So what is getting?
gitignore, what it does is, if you look at the gitignore file, it tells the compiler or the GitHub and your Git repository what to ignore. So what folders to ignore. Like for example, I don't want them to really put up anything to do with our files, like Bootstrap, Font Awesome, and jQuery. I don't care about those things. Now there's a bit of a problem if I do this. If I was to ignore my libraries for this and I put it up on Azure, unfortunately, I can report to you that this would be an issue in Azure. Azure does not build up with, it doesn't use Bower for, it doesn't use Bower for, to kind of put together its files as a package manager. It doesn't do that. It doesn't understand Bower. It understands NPM. If I was going to use NPM, I could ignore NPM modules, node modules, but I can't do it with Bower components or anything like that. So I got to leave that out. So I got to put this a gitignore file. I've just included this one from last day. I was just playing with this, just to remove some stuff. By the way, this stands for Cloud9. If you're a Cloud9 person, if you use the online store, if you're a Mac person, you want to avoid when you put up things to GitHub anything that's dsstore, because your folder structure sometimes includes dsstore, like a hidden file that gets put up on GitHub you don't need. That's why I put them in there. So anything that you put in your gitignore file gets ignored by Git. It won't add those into the staging area, and it won't be put up on GitHub. And you can choose whatever you want to ignore. For example, you might want to ignore stuff like copyrighted images, right? Protected images. You don't want to put certain images on GitHub. You can ignore them. You can not put them up. Okay, so, but anyways, we're just formatting our new files here. And if you notice, I can go back here again, and I can click Initialize Git Repository because I deleted my Git repository. So let's do that. And I have all these changes. I'm going to go to stage everything. I'm going to call this initial commit. There we go. Oops. And then click the check mark. And I can't do push or anything because I haven't set up my repository yet. So I'm going to go back up here to GitHub. And I'm going to go to Centennial. And on Centennial, I'm going to click New Repository. So I'm going to go COMP125 lesson 5. And might as well put, I'm sorry, summer 2016. How about that? 2016. I can do that too, but I really want to put lesson 6, not lesson 5. Lesson 5, if you can tell, we're done. My brain is still lesson 5. 6. Here we go. Done. Now I need these 2 lines, these last 2 lines of code. I'm going to go into my terminal here. Now here's the thing that you can do because sorry, let me go back to Visual Studio. Again, I can expose my terminal here by going View in Visual Studio, Toggle Integrated Terminal, and I can copy them in here, right? And they'll do everything in line here. So everything can be done inside the terminal window now. You get inside Visual Studio if you want, if you prefer that, as opposed to having an extra terminal window up. It's kind of neat. I like it. It's something that it's a feature that people were looking for a while, and all it does is use your default terminal or command prompt in your case. If your command prompt is working, then it'll work in here. If it's not working, it won't work in here. It's not going to fix anything. It's just going to use your command prompt in a window. That's all it is. Remember that Visual Studio Code is an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, well, actually TypeScript program. It's been made by HTML Technologies using another technology called Electron, right? That's how this application was made. So this application was made cross-platform using the Electron system, which is kind of cool. So what you're actually seeing is a browser window. This is kind of neat. A browser window. And our editor is really browser technology that we're using, believe it or not. That's why it's so lightweight, quick, and all that stuff compared to Visual Studio 2015. Visual Studio 2015 is not like this. It's a full-blown browser, right? Or full-blown editor. So it's not like that, like how this is. So this is advantages and disadvantages, and you have to kind of live with the two. All right, so cool. So we've launched our new folder, and we want to talk about some new things and some old things. One of the things that we didn't cover last week, and I'm going to bring up last week's PowerPoint. I guess that's why my mind is still on lesson 5, because we're still covering some stuff from lesson 5. Let me go back to lesson 5 for a second. So here's lesson 5, and I wanted to talk about this stuff with you because I think, you know, it's a long lesson. Like lesson 5 includes lots of stuff that you know, I don't feel good about skipping, right? Like there's some stuff. Sometimes we're going to skip some lessons. because you know what? It's not required. We've talked about it or whatever. And some stuff we can't skip because it's important. We talked about cloning nodes last week. We talked about the ability for us to add nodes specifically in a particular position by using the insert before. We did that once already, right? We talked about removing nodes. Again, we can remove, if we put remove child and you target a particular object inside your files, we talked about how you can remove nodes and add nodes. So last week was all about DOM traversal, so going through the DOM, like the document object model. What's the difference between document object model and window, the BOM, the browser object model, right? But we didn't get around to talking about some other stuff in the browser object model too much. Some of those things are, for example, closed, document, history, inner height, inner width, location, name, navigator. All this stuff is part of the window piece, right? The window piece. So if I go, instead of document dot, get element by ID or whatever, I can always go window dot. And I want to do some of that today, right? So let's go back into our file. And inside my app.js, remember we have some areas here we started putting together. And I'm going to leave this part alone because this is still part of our last lesson. But what I want to do here in my about file, where I have my initial text, right? I want to work with this one today. I'm just choosing a random one, okay? So in here, what I want to talk about in my about, or even in my contact, one of those two things, is let's say, for example, I want to get my information about my window width and height and all that kind of stuff. How do I do that? Well, first of all, let's start just using some console commands to show you what these all mean. So console log. See the difference between window inner height and outer height. What does that mean? What does inner and outer height mean? And what is window? Window means your browser, right? So let's check this out. So I'm going to say, so we'll say inner width, right? And we'll say comma, or sorry, plus, and we'll say window dot inner width. There's inner width, okay? So let's see what that is. And console.log inner height, just to understand what that is, again, and then window dot inner height. Okay, so let's see what those things are. And then what I want to do is the same thing with, instead of inner heights, I want to do outer widths and heights. Let's try that out. So maybe we can correct my spelling on one of these things. Thank you for not saying anything, guys. Well, let's go to outer. And because honestly, to understand the difference between the two is important, because it can help us do things like understand our how we can lay out pages and so on, and respond to mobile devices, right? So we're going to say outer width. You can see how that works. So all we're doing is replacing the inner with the outer word. Okay, so let's see what we get here. So inner width, inner height, outer width, outer height for now. Okay, and I'm going to run this one. Now again, hey, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code to do this. I'm going to go View. I'm going to toggle my integrated terminal, and in here, I'm going to clear. I'm going to go HTTP-server. I'm going to run my server on port 8080. Okay, so I'm running my server here. I got to be very careful, people, because if I close off Visual Studio Code, doesn't mean my terminal closes, and I still serve on 8080. It's still taking up this port. I got to be able to close this service down, and I got to be careful not to close my Visual Studio in order for me to do that. All right, let's launch this, as an example. So I'm going to go to here, and I'll say localhost 8080, and I can see I got my window. And if I click on About Me, and if I go to Inspect, right, and if I go to Console, I can see that I got an error. It says, oh, this is important too, eh? I've updated my JavaScript. We'll come back and we'll talk about this in a bit. Don't worry about my error. It's my error. It's not your error. Inner width and inner height, outer width and outer height, if you notice, is 1263, and it's all the same. But however, look at the outer height. My outer height is 797, and my inner height is 702. How come? I didn't change anything. This is, outer height is 797, inner height is 702. All right, here's something else. What if I did this? And now I did it by refreshed. Now my outer height is 797, and my inner height is 493. Let's try that again. Let's move it again. My inner height is 264, and my outer height is 797. 797 is not changing, but my inner height seems to change. And it changes because when I'm looking at my browser, the inner height is this stuff, the stuff that's in here before my, this stuff is taking up part of my browser, right? And my JavaScript is quick enough to understand, or smart enough to understand, that this piece down here, this little developer window down here, is taking up a piece of the browser. So that's the difference between outer height and inner height. For the most part, most people will always have those two values matching. But in our case, because we're using the developer window, right, our outer height, right, and our inner height are different. Notice that my width hasn't changed. So it's always 1263. Here's something that I want you to ask yourself. 1263 pixels is what we're talking about. If I move this like this and refresh, you can see that again, my inner width and my outer width are the same. The only way this would change is if somehow I changed up the way my page gets my developer window. If I park it over here on the right, as an example, then my width will be different. Okay, that's the only time it'll be different. Okay, so that's what it does. So we can detect how big the browser window is. Why is that important? Because you know what? On mobile devices, so here's my mobile device, right? I have a different size browser window, right? Especially if I hold it, you know, portrait or landscape, depending on which one I do. It's my kids and my wife. But if I go portrait and landscape, right? If I go landscape, right, like this, or portrait like this, the browser window will adjust. It'll reorient. By the way, that creates an event called orientation change. Orientation change is an actual event that we can detect now with HTML5. So when you do this or this, orientation changes, and so therefore you can actually adjust your layout according to the orientation change, right? And you can do it with CSS. You don't have to use JavaScript at all. So that's what the browser window does. This inner width and inner height. Okay, that's first thing. Let's go back to the PowerPoint for a second. So inner height and inner width, those things. Outer height and outer width is a little different. Here's one. How about location? What the hell is that? Location, right? So if I want to try that out, let's check out. So with the window, I want to look at location. So I'm going to go here like this, and we're going to put another console log, console.log, and we'll just say location by itself, all right? And we'll go plus window.location, all right? So just location. Okay, I want you to notice, I want to also note that location by itself isn't really complete, this by itself. But I want to show you what it does anyway. So I want to go back to here and refresh, and you can see that I'm also getting a location. Oh look, what am I getting here? My URL. Didn't I get that before? It's a document.url, right? This is my, sorry, I'm going to bring it up for people to see it. So my location is localhost and about HTML. If you see what it says, just to show you, my location, it says reference the location object. That's what I'm doing, the location object. Well, when I reference the location object has other additional features, window.location, right? Let me do a couple of other tests here. If I was going to go back to my file here for a second, just so we can browse what it is. If I go location dot, and if I scroll through to see what it does, I get path name. I can convert it to string, initial text, and these are all other things that I can talk about here. But the biggest ones are my host name, my origin, my path name, my port, and so on. So I can break down my actual URL into pieces, right, to understand those kinds of things, like who my host is and so on. Why is this important? It's important because I can gather that information. So if, let's say, for example, a user comes and I want to know, what my location is, I can break down my URL, and from that way I can figure things out. Or let's say he navigates to a particular page, and instead of me detecting by title, I want to detect by location. I can do that too, or by port or whatever, right? So it's just additional information here. Let's go to the next one. So console.log. Navigator. What's my navigator? And if I was to do plus window.navigator, right? There's window.navigator. So that's another thing we can do. Let's see what this allows me to do. So I'm going to go save, go back to here and refresh. Oh, refresh. Navigator is an object, so I can't use it like this. You know, if I could, then there would be something here. It would actually give me something like this, right? So let's put some other options here. So navigator dot, and you can see that it gives me app code name, app version. Let's do app name. What's that? Okay, let's see what that is. So navigator, and we'll say app name, just so that we see what that is. So go back, refresh, and you can see that it says navigator app name Netscape. What the hell? Detecting that the technologies that I'm using for my browser is Netscape, right? That's the app name. Actually, in fact, if anything, does anyone know what Netscape is? Netscape used to be the first browser. Actually, it was the first browsing engine we ever had on the web. Netscape is what it was called, and that's where the Gecko engine came from, right? The Mozilla engine and all that stuff that powers Firefox and part of the stuff that used to power Google and so on. It all came from Netscape, the original browser, the first browser. You know, patient zero. I don't know what you want to call him. Like he's like the first person, the first browser that ever existed, right? Kind of thing. So that's why this is interesting that it came up. Okay, let's talk about other options here. So Navigator gives us some stuff about the application that's incoming, that's accessing our stuff. So Navigator app name. How about other things? Navigator dot, and you can see that there's app version. Here's code name. Let's try app code name. See what the difference is. App code name. And I'm mentioning these just so you see what the advantage of using these things are. Usually we use them for detection. I want to detect what browser's incoming. I want to detect my internet width and height. Depending on the user's width and height, I can adjust my layout. I want to detect who's coming at me to use my website, as an example. Let's refresh. So app code name Mozilla. Yeah. No, not on the front end. On the back end, yes. Front end, not accurately, because you need to be able to process it through the back end. The back end receives your requests, right? So if I send a request for IP address, I send a request out to the web for an IP address, right? What happens is it's a request response system. So you send a request, the server receives it and sends a response, right? At the server, it knows, I can detect at the server who is asking for that request, what IP address, because that's what drives the request, right? So here's the request coming from. Where is it coming from? And a valid IP address. What's the IP address? I can return it to the front end, right? But I can't do that from the front end. I have to send a request to the back end to get it to the front end. And usually the back end is PHP or ASP.NET or Node. Node would do it for me, no problem. But not the front end. Not currently, put it that way. Current technologies don't allow. Okay, so Mozilla is also a further name. So it's the app code name. App name is Netscape, Mozilla. It's interesting that we use the same Mozilla engine on Chrome as we do, right, with Firefox, right? Firefox is slightly different. So I'm just going to kind of go in here. What else can we do with Navigator? I'm going to keep going down the list here. So app code name, app minor version, app name, app version. Okay, let's do this one, app version. So this should give us a version code. I go now again, not exciting stuff, but I want you to see it. Well, here it is. So this is interesting. It's app version is 5, Macintosh. That's the computer that's using it. Intel Mac OS. Here's my OS 10, the 11.5. That's interesting. If you try it on yours, it'll tell you your Windows version, right? That's using it. Apple WebKit, right? That's what I'm using. And like Gecko is what it says. Chrome, here's my actual version, Chrome 51.0270484 as of this recording. Safari 537.36, right? So this tells me way more information than the other two. So maybe I don't care about these app name and app code name, but definitely app version almost gives me something like, I'm going to put it out there to you guys, the user agent string. User agent string. That's what it's called, right? It's almost like, here's my agent. What am I incoming with? This is really cool, especially if I'm incoming with a mobile device, right? let's try it again. I'll try this same thing right here, this Navigator app version. But instead of using Chrome, let's use some other browser. Okay, like for example, let's use Firefox. So here's Firefox, and we'll go to localhost 8080, and we'll go to, just to be the same, About Me page, and I'll right-click and inspect. And you can see that Firefox is going to give me very similar issues, right? But take a look at this. Here's my app name Netscape, app code name Mozilla, app version 5. It doesn't give me this. Why? Because I'm using Mozilla Firefox 5, right? And also, depending on the version of my my browser, it gives me different information. Let's use another one. Just let's use Poor Opera, right? Because I know I keep saying Poor Opera, but really, let's be honest. So if I go to Opera, right, and I want to use the same thing, so you can see localhost 8080. Yeah, okay, fine. I go to About, and I'll go to Inspect. And now this is a little different on Opera in terms of finding your console, right? It's totally different. What I have to do is I have to set up developer and all this kind of stuff, right? It's not the same at all, right? So see how I have elements, network, sources, timeline, and here's my console way out here. So Navigator app version 5, Intel Mac OS, Apple WebKit, like Chrome 45. So it's a little bit behind my Opera version, right? Because it's using the same WebKit. WebKit, the same engine that drives Chrome, used to drive Opera, right? So my Opera is old. I haven't updated it. That's why it's 45. Let's use one more. Let's use Safari, because Safari is a very common one we use on Apple. So localhost 8080, and I go to About Me, right-click, and if I go Inspect, and again, I'm just going to show you guys this so you can see the differences between them all. Way over here. So I want to go to About Me, and if you notice, it says App version 5, Macintosh, Intel Mac OS, Apple WebKit, like Gecko version 9.11, Safari, right? Again, because they all use a very similar engine, this is why we see what this is. If I was going to use something like, for example, I don't know, you guys do it with your Windows. What does it give you? Huh? What's your app version? What it gives you on Windows when you try it? What is it? 5.0 what? For Windows as well? NT 6.1? Windows NT, right? Windows NT, right? I don't know if you guys know what Windows NT is. You guys may not know. You guys are too young. But Windows, way back in the day, there was something called Windows 95, right? And actually before that was something called Windows 3.1, right? That's where it all started. Windows 3.1 was a layer on top of DOS. So do you know your command prompt? You had Windows on the top of the command prompt. So it really wasn't a windowing system. The command prompt itself was the main system, DOS, the disk operating system. That's what it was. Windows 3.1 at the time, by the way, was really bad, right? And it was, what it was they had, for the average person, we all use Windows 3.1. But they wanted to use something more professional for businesses. And they wanted to network. So they made something called Windows Networking, Windows NT, right? Which was more of a server-based windowing system, Windows NT. And that's what it was used. It eventually became Windows Server. That's what it was. That's what it became later on. But Windows NT, it gradually got merged with Windows 3.1, Windows 95, Windows XP, Windows 98, Windows ME, Windows, I can keep going, by the way, Windows 2000, oh God, right? Windows Vista, right? Until we got to the point where, there were one. Windows NT, and Windows itself was one. So as they've gone up in value, the numbers that you see in Windows NT have gone up, just like Windows has gone up. And that's what it is. It's one windowing system now. Because it's 64-bit, that's one of the things that Windows NT was sporting. Actually, before it was only 32-bit. The original Windows was 16-bit. I'm just telling you, Windows 3.1. And then finally it went to 32-bit, finally 64-bit, like most operating systems are now. Although, by the way, there was a version of Windows 7. I think that was still 32-bit. Anyway, so this is the history. This is how it came from. So when you see Windows NT, it means you're Windows 7. That's what it means. We have to detect that. You have to understand the thing behind that. We can talk about the history of Windows later on. It's not really applicable to here, but just so you understand what it means. All right, so that's what this means. I just wanted to point it out so you understand what the navigator does. It tells you information about the incoming browser. Let's do one more, because Navigator has some really cool things you can do with Navigator. We're going to talk about Navigator at length. So Windows.Navigator. This is all from the windowing system. Browser language, we're going to do that one. Connection speed. Let's see what else it has. CPU class. Here's something. Geolocation. Well, I like this one. Geolocation. And I'm wondering, if geolocation's enough, can I do something else, right? Like, for example, can I do that? Can I do something else? Well, let's just leave it at geolocation and see what it does. So we'll say just geolocation by itself. So Navigator geolocation, and then see what we get. Going back to here and refresh, and you can see that I get a geolocation object. So it's an object, right? So I can't do, let's go to geolocation. I can't just do geolocation, right? And but even if my code hinting, if I go down the pipe, like I have some get current position, how about that? Get current position. That's actually a method that I have to kick off, right? Get current position. Okay, now is this enough? It says message any, and then optional parameters, any if I want them. So I want to return, it says, a method that returns nothing. It doesn't return anything. The return type is void. So I'm not going to really get my position, right? What I need to do is I got to have, what's required is, if you notice in my call language, right, my success callback is required. I need to create a callback method to return my location, if you will, right? That's what it does. So what I have to do here for JavaScript, just for you lovely people, is I got to do a callback, right? So an inner JavaScript function. Okay, and just to make it clear, I want to bring it up here so you guys can see it. So here's my function. I'm going to pass in something called location, right? And now I should be able to do something like this: location dot, and then maybe coordinates dot latitude, right? I should be able to do that. And location dot coords dot longitude, right? And if I print those out in a console command, I want to print those out. I want to show you my longitude and latitude. Console.log, right? So this isn't really good, this little console log in the first place, right? What I want to do is kill this for a second, just to make it a little easier. And in here, I want to do, so latitude and longitude, if I'm right. Okay. And again, I got that all from code hinting. I didn't go up and look it up anywhere, anything like that, just code hinting. So what am I doing here? So I'm using the window navigator geolocation get current position method that's built in, right? I'm passing it into this is a callback function. We talked about this, or anonymous function that I'm using that's inline, that I'm using it inline. I'm passing in something called a location object that gets passed in because of my geolocation. It happens automatically. I'm not making this up, right? Then my location object can have coordinates, and I can break off my coordinates. My coordinates has two properties. Other properties actually, latitude and longitude, and all I'm doing is splitting them up and printing them out. Let's see if it works. It may not, right? All right, so we'll go back, but first let's kill some of these browsers here because they're killing me just looking at them. All right, let's go back to my browser and refresh and see what I get. Hey, this is cool. It says localhost wants to know your current location. You're going to get this because I'm asking specifically for my location. And you got to give permission to your browser or to your peeps to let them know. So I'm going to click allow. And then if I allow and refresh, right, I can see that my latitude is 43 and my longitude is minus 79, 228, 6314, whatever it is, right? That's my latitude and longitude. Hey, let's check them on a Google map, right, to see if it's accurate. Let's see where it pegs me, right? So I gave it permission. So I'm going to go to Google Maps. So maps, maps.google.com, right? Maps.google.com. And in here, in my search, I'm going to put my longitude and latitude, all right? So I'm going to go back to my About Me page, and you can see that my latitude and longitude is 43, blah. Go here, put that in here. And then I'm going to put a comma. That's how Google Map works, right? And take my minus 79. Go over here, put it over here. And then, did I do it right? And then press enter. And it should zero in exactly where we are. So your geolocation is absolutely known. We're at Centennial College, and it tells me the exact place I'm at, right? It tells me my distance home, too, 22 minutes, right? But that's because I've programmed it in so it knows where I am, where my home is, all that kind of stuff, right? That's, you can do that with when you sign in, like how I'm signed in, right? So if I zoom in, you can see that the building is what building I'm at and approximately my location. Is this right? No. So again, I think this is neat, you know, in terms of, I mean, I'm sharing this on the internet for people to know where we are, but it's okay, you know, because at the end of the day, what I want you to know is I just got this information, right, from here, from my browser, because I allowed it. That's dangerous stuff, eh? People can know. So here's something I want you to go back to security. If you're a security-minded person, who's a security-minded person in this place, right? Okay, so if you're really security-minded and if there's a really smart developer out there, an example is this. You download this new browser, right? You download a new browser that comes out. And it's based off of a known engine or whatever it is. You're like, cool, it's a fast browser, and I want to put it on my phone, right? Because you want to download a new app for your phone. It's a quick browser. It's a little better than Chrome, they say, blah, 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 whatever. And, you know, you go in there and you go, once you put your stuff in there, it could have automatic. Instead of it asking you for permissions or whatever, there could be nothing protecting you, and you can give up your location all the time, right? Or if you go to a website, the website could disable some stuff in the browser, potentially, you never know, with smart developers, right? And you could be giving up your location all the time, yeah. There's so many ways to be tracked, but I'm saying this is giving you the exact location of where you are, right? So sometimes if you ever go to a website and it says, Walmart would like to know your location. Why do they want to know your location? If you go to Cineplex, you want to buy some movie tickets, right? And you go to Cineplex and they go, Cineplex would like to know your location. What you're giving them is your latitude and longitude. Why? So they can calculate the distance to the movie theater for you. But here's the nearest movie theater for you, right? How do they know that, where you are, right? Because you're giving them your location, latitude and longitude. And they're using Google Maps or some other mapping software, right? And they're going, okay, so he's here or she's here, and here's our closest movie theater within 30 kilometers or whatever the hell it is, right? And then this is the distance. And you know what? They can even tell you the route to get there. This is good too if you're building an app for a restaurant, right? And you ask the user, can you please give me your location? Can you share your location? If you share your location, the user will tell, the restaurant will tell them, well, we're only 20 kilometers away, or 10 kilometers away, or 5 kilometers away. Here's the route to get to us, right? From where you are.
So, is there any way that without asking any like permissions to share the location, the website can track us?
No, typically not. Even if I go to another kind of browser, most browsers have security built in nowadays that we use to protect us, right? So if I was to go to, let's try this in another browser. Let's try it in Opera. It's older. I haven't updated it. Let's see if it's available there. So I'm going to go to browsers, and let's go to Opera again. And we'll put in. Yeah, no, I don't want to update. Welcome to Opera. It's probably updated when I just did that. When I went to, because I hit it twice, it's updated now, right? Bam. So if I go to About Me as an example, right? And again, I want to see inspect element, right? And if I go to console, right, you can see that if I refresh, it says location requested. Do you want to request? You can deny or allow, right? Even in poor Opera, it allows me to do that. Look, it just updated to 51. See what happens when you launch browser, when launch something automatically in the background? I probably set it to automatically update. It updated Opera to the latest version. But if I click allow, right, what it does is it tells me the Opera browser is attempting to access your location. Service provided by Google adds location capability to applications while using the Opera browser. By clicking agree below, you agree to Google's terms of service and to the collection, use, sharing, and onward, blah, 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 of your, so ask me later. Let's accept and enable geolocation. And when I do that, the only way I can get that is if I refresh. Or actually, I'll give it to you there. And here's my location down here at the bottom. So it won't allow you to do it automatically. Let's do it in another browser. I'm disappointed I've updated Opera. I wanted to keep it old, right? Poor Opera, right? But Opera is pretty good, actually. I have to say it's the same as Google Chrome, right? Let's go into, I can joke around as much as I want, but spec element. So if I looked at the console for this one, right? Unexpected CSS token. I love it because my gradient and so on. So let's look at a couple things. I want to go to About Me and inner width, height, and it says the website would like to access your current location. Like it says, remember my decision for 1 day, right? So that the Safari has a different method. Click allow, right? Safari would like to use your current location. Another one, allow, right? And finally, I get it, right? So it does give it to you, but most browsers will ask you. Even the ones that are experimental, most likely they'll try and protect the user in some way, and try and get that information from you, right? Because you don't want to give that that's sensitive information, right? Your geolocation. So be careful. Whenever you give your location, this is what it means, right? You may have never known this, and we all are very trusting people, eh? We buy stuff online. We do a lot of online transactions. We go to bad websites because we want to download free movies and stuff. I'm just saying, most of us at some point or another have done this kind of stuff. If you're any kind of young person, you may have tried doing these kind of things. Maybe you go to some gambling sites. Some people might do that too. Oh my God. Or if you want to go to other kinds of sites with lots of pictures. I'm not going to say what those are, right? Or videos. You don't know what information you're giving out. So what's the nicest thing to do? You might think that you might be forgiven to think that using something like incognito mode is the right thing to do, but to go to sites that you don't trust. You don't want to be tracked. You don't want to trust. Use incognito mode. Let's try incognito mode and see if it does anything different for us. We'll go incognito mode, and we'll go to localhost 8080. Right. I'm going to click on About Me. Right. And refresh. And what's happening here? So I'm inspecting. Here's my console. It didn't even ask. Didn't even ask. Why? Because I okayed it on my other Google, because Google Chrome and incognito mode, as an example, right, are linked. If I've okayed it on one, it's okayed on the other side. It's the same browser, right? So, and it tracks my information, knows where I am, incognito mode, right? How about, is there a private for Firefox? I'm proving a point to you here, right? That there's no security here whatsoever. So I'm gonna go to Firefox. How do I get to private in Firefox? Who remembers? How do I make this private browsing? So Firefox and preferences, where? No, go here. Look, if I go right-click, window in new private window, I can pull it up. So now I'm private browsing in Firefox like I was with Chrome, right? So if I go here, I go localhost 8080, blah, blah, blah. And I go to About Me page, it asks me again, share my location, right? When you see the share your location stuff, right? When you see that, and if I go to inspect element, just FYI, that it gives you your location, no matter what browser you're using, whether you're private browsing or not. So if you want to keep anonymous, do not share your location. Never click on geolocation on your browser, because they give the exact location of where you are. That, combined with server-side technology, will tell you where you're located, exactly where you're sitting, and what's your IP address. So that is a big security risk, guys. Yeah? Doesn't matter. No. Your IP address doesn't matter in this. You're giving up your location. You're agreeing to your location. Once you agree to your location, you give it to no matter what browser you're sitting. What you're using. What doesn't matter if you're using a proxy, using TorGuard, whatever you're going to use, it'll still give your location. Yeah.
If we are using like on mobile different kind of browsers, we just enable the location service on our mobile. Then it will automatically do for the browser also, or browser will
just try it out. Try it out. Try it out for your phone, right? To make it visible on your phone, if you want to try it out, right, with your local host, it's a little bit more difficult because for me to use my phone to browse is hard. But let's say, for example, I'm going to use an emulator here. I want to see if I have an emulator that I can use just to emulate this thing. I don't think I do. I can't use it so easily unless I use something like Xcode. Okay, I digress when I do this, but I'll do it anyway. You don't have to do this. I want to see if I can emulate something. So let's say I have my little app here. I'm building a mobile app with Xcode, right? And I'm going to run it with my iPhone 6s. Right, so here's an example of an iPhone 6s. Right, so I'm emulating. It's going to bring up my little app that I built. And the good thing about this is I can swipe to go to my Safari or whatever. So here's Safari, right? And I'm going to enter my website. Can I go to localhost? First of all, does it have access to localhost? Localhost, right? And if I go, I think it's 8080. Hold on a second. I don't think so. Yeah, it does. Okay, so here's what looks like a mobile device. So here's this is an iPhone, an emulator, right? So let me just go click hardware for a second, and I want to go to Zoom. All I'm trying to do here with you guys is get you to understand from a security perspective how this works, because I really don't want you to feel that scale. Let's go to 33%. All right, so I don't want you to feel that you're going to be safe when you browse, right? So I want to click on my browser, and here's something that doesn't work. So on what looks like an iPhone, when I click on this button here, I'm having some malfunction because of my jQuery issue. Remember, it says a jQuery problem on the bottom of my screen? There's a problem, right? We'll talk about that in a second. But I can go to my specific page because I know my page is about. Look what it says. Allow Safari to access your location while you use this app. If you do that on your phone, as soon as you go on that phone, it'll allow you, huh? Is what? It wouldn't work there. It wouldn't work there because your phone isn't linked to your computer. Your computer's hosting the website. Your phone can't just go there. The reason why this is working here is because my emulator is in my computer. So the port 8080 is being shared by the emulator and my computer, so I can do this. But in real life, you'd have to serve your website live here. So if I put this live on Azure, it would work on all browsers, including your phone, right? So try that. But if I click allow, right, and it says, look, it asked me again, would you like to look at your current location? Yes, okay. Now I can't right-click and expose what the actual thing is, but know that in the background, it's happening, people. It's captured my location on my phone, right? So be careful, because that means you can be caught anywhere on your phone, whatever. Most browsers will allow this. Let me shut down the simulator here for a second. So I'm just going to go back to Xcode. Again, you don't have to know about Xcode. Xcode is just a development environment to produce mobile applications for Apple iOS and Mac OS. That's what it's supposed to be for. But it also comes with an emulator that can emulate iPhones. Okay, so that's enough about that piece. Yeah.
So what about Tails? Tails that provides the geographical location of a person.
Such as?
So it's the name of a software.
What's it called?
Tails.
Yeah, it may not. It's still, unless you agree. If you agree, if they ask you and you agree, still produce it. You're sending it from where your location is. Your location services is, you can generate location from anywhere, right? So it's not a proxy specific thing. It's not like you can sit there and go, I'm using a proxy, so I'm not going to give up my location. Once this piece of code here is working, right, and it'll ask you if you want to use. If you agree, you're good to go. Done. right? So please don't think that it's blocking, or don't trust any software, all right? If you don't want to give your location, press cancel. And even then, if it's asking you for your location and you don't know what website you're on, leave the website immediately. Close down your browser, right? Because at the end of the day, you're the one that gives this information. So Navigator gives us a lot of information. Navigator, it tells us just from the window itself, the browser itself will request that information, your geolocation. It's enabled on most computers now, mobile devices and so on. And even your smartwatch, if you're using a smartwatch like Apple, your Apple Watch, right? All that kind of stuff. Or any other smartwatch that has a browser built into it, if it has some kind of version of Chrome, which most watches do, right? Then chances are it can ask for your location, and it'll know where you are physically, and it's strapped to your wrist. Like it's almost like you're giving up your information right away. Some people are okay with that. Some people aren't. Just FYI. That's all. Just be aware. That's all. There's also some different stuff we haven't seen before. For example, we haven't been really using the alert. Okay, I've told you, remember, from a debugging perspective, please don't use the alert. It's a bad thing. Don't use the alert, right? We have to kind of explore what these are now. I think this is a great time to do that. So if I go window.alert, window.confirm, window.prompt, those are the three little pop-ups that we can use. Let's try this out and see what they do. And then we'll take a break. All right, so we got a window navigator. We'll say window.alert. Now remember, because it's window, this is the neat thing. I don't even have to use the window class, right? I can just go alert, just like I can go navigator by itself without the window dot, right? But just to keep form, window dot, and here's my message. My message would be like, hello world, right? You can put whatever message you want in there. Any kind of text or a string message you want can be put in there, right? So you can use, some people use alerts for debugging, right? As opposed to or notification. Please don't use alerts. It's a very annoying thing that comes up on your website. Let's see what happens. So refresh. Localhost 8080 says hello world, right? Can you format this? Yes, you can. You can do all kinds of formatting with this and whatever. You can't really take away, add buttons to this. This is just a little pop-up window. It's a modal window, by the way. If I want to do something else over here, I can, right? But it won't allow me to see how this website's still going. Anything else after the alert, after my window.alert, whatever it is blocked. It's waiting for me to do this before it continues down my JavaScript. And I'll give you an example of that. So let's say I move this around. So instead of it being here, I put it here. Right, here's my window.alert. So I'll put that here. How about I move the whole thing instead of moving only part of it? There we go. And so this is where it is. And if I go here, let's press OK and refresh. Notice that I get the alert first and nothing else comes after. It's blocked. Until I press this OK button, it doesn't do any of my other JavaScript. This is why it's bad. Right? You don't want it to do this. Press OK. Now I get all this. Right? Notice that it didn't ask me for permission and whatever. Oh, and it got it right, because I only have to give permission once. Once I give permission for the day, pretty much, I want you to think about it's been given. So if you by accident choose yes, right? It's done. Too bad. So sad. Yeah. No. If I come back, if I close this down and everything else, and I relaunch my whole browser, but I can't right now because I'm recording, right? Then it would do that, right? I got this JavaScript error and I want to get rid of it. How do I do that? Well, first of all, I have to notice why I have this JavaScript error, right? So one thing I wanted to let you know is that jQuery has updated over the last little while. So dumb enough as I was, I went and got the latest version of jQuery and put it in here. Well, it's not compatible with Bootstrap. Just let you know. It's just not. The latest version of jQuery 3, not compatible with Bootstrap. You have to download the version of jQuery that is compatible, which is 2.x, whatever it is, or earlier than that. Inside my bower.json file, you can see that I'm looking for a jQuery version of 3 or higher, right? This is bad. So what I want to do is I want to undo this problem. And I'm going to do this in my window down here to fix it. Because we've been seeing this error over and over again. So I'm going to stop my want to stop my my server, go up here, and then inside my terminal window, do something like this. So I'll say, this is how you can uninstall stuff with Bower, right? So I made a mistake. It's a great opportunity for me to show you how to fix it. So when I say Bower, if I just type Bower alone, it'll give me a bunch of stuff that I can do. For example, I can install, here's my install, and here I can also uninstall, right? So I can install and uninstall. So I want to do an uninstall. So when I say Bower, trust me, Bower, uninstall, jQuery, -- save. When I do that, it goes through. It says Bower conflict, Bootstrap depends on jQuery. Continue anyway. See how there's a dependency? Yes. Okay, done. Takes Bootstrap out, or jQuery out. Let's add it in again. Bower install jQuery, -- save. Now here's what's happened now with jQuery. It's going to say, which version of jQuery do you want? Right? So which one do you want? It says jQuery has a problem. Unable to find a suitable version for jQuery, please choose one by typing one of the numbers below. Why? Because there's a bunch of different jQuery versions. I have to specify sometimes which one I want. 2.2.4, you know, as an example. jQuery 1.911, which 2, which resolved to 2.2.4 is required by Bootstrap 3.3.6. Smart enough to understand that, right? Here's one, jQuery 3, which is resolved to 3. Doesn't work with Bootstrap right now, so I'm going to choose number 1. Press enter. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me the latest version. Now look what it did. jQuery 3. How come? That's not right. Did I choose 2 or 1? Answer was 1. Right? So what I want in here, just to let you know, is jQuery greater than 2.2.4. That's what I want in here. So jQuery greater than 2.2.4. Right? Because if I go, that's 3, right? Just FYI, it'll be wrong. Now, it says it's installed the right version of jQuery. How do I know what version of jQuery I got? I got to go into my distribution, and I go into my jQuery.js, and up here you can see the version. Right? You can always know what the version of jQuery libraries you have that don't conflict with something else. Right now, we haven't talked about jQuery, so don't worry about it too much. But I'm just going to tell you what I tried. I was trying to be smart and download the latest version of jQuery, talk to you guys about it. Of course, it broke my code, right? So even smart people do dumb things sometimes. That's what I'm saying. Notice that I've got a bunch of problems here with my you know, my code. I want to upload 99 different things. Do it, because now uploading it, it'll change everything up online as well. So let me go and update this. I'm going to say updated about page and jQuery. Click on this, click this, and press push. It's going to push all those changes up. It's only 99 changes. Don't worry about it. All right, let's see if we still get that problem. So I'm going to go back here and go view and look at toggle integrated terminal. And we're going to clear for this one. And when I clear it, I want to see that I run it. So I'm going to say http-server. I'm just going to run a little server, go back up here. And if I refresh now, it asks me, do I want to do this? Press OK. And now there's no error. Okay, that was the little error I was getting for Bootstrap and all that. Still gives me my coordinates. But you see that the alert, going back to, sorry, we digress, but the alert is a very bad thing to put in. All right, you don't want to put that in. If people used to use this as a design choice, right? They put it in. Welcome, user. And you know, it was bad. It was like going back to the 80s where you had, like, you know, animated GIFs. Wait, we still use animated GIFs, right? I'm joking, but that's how it is. Actually, more like 90s, 80s. There wasn't anything, but I always say the 80s because, you know, before the 90s, really, internet didn't exist, or the way we know it now. So I want you to think of that. I want you to think of that. It's a bad design choice. You don't want to plague your users with pop-ups all the time. That's bad. Yeah.
So we can ask the user in a pop-up also, like, do you want to give your geological location?
You can, but that doesn't matter because you've already given it. The browser uses it. The browser will do that. It doesn't matter. It's redundant. The browser will ask you. Okay, so that's one. Let's go back to your thing here. I want to make sure that this is covered. And I will just close off this window for now. Okay, so you can see that this pop-up window alert bad, right? Let's see what other things we can do with the alert. So instead of window alert, we can also do window dot prompt confirm. Window confirm actually, if you notice the syntax, it actually returns a Boolean, a true or false, right? So confirm is actually very useful because I can say, are you sure, right? Are you sure you want to enter this page, kind of thing. And if you say yes, as an example, then I'll do all this stuff. If you say no, are you sure? Like, there's one you can ask. Do you want to give sensitive information? Are you sure you want to give sensitive information to my website? Let's try that. So here it is. Are you sure you want to give away your sensitive info? No browser, no website will ever ask you this question, but just like to say, right? Now, what we want to do is do one of these. If it's true that, because remember, this is going to return a true or false, right? If it's true that the person says that they want to do their sensitive info, then we'll run everything we just did inside this little block, code block. Okay, so I'm gonna take this out and put it over here, right? So they agree that everything else is they want me to look at their sensitive info, right? So all this now is inside this confirm statement. The confirm actually is another little annoying pop-up, but it has more usefulness. Let's get rid of this one because this hello world pop-up is going to kill me, right? I'm just going to go nuts. Let's try this out. So refresh. It's going to say, here you go. Are you sure you want to give away your sensitive info, right? If I say cancel, nothing happens. Let's refresh. Are you sure you want to give your sensitive info? Okay, right? Now it comes here. And now because we've already said okay to this thing, eventually it'll give me my latitude and longitude. Right? So a confirm box isn't bad, but it's ugly still, right? It's kind of a pop-up that pops up and says, hey, there's got to be better ways than this, right? Otherwise, it's a confirm, right? So confirms are more useful. Sometimes, especially when you're deleting a piece of information, if you're making a website that deletes from the database, some people, what they do is, and I've done it before too, you use a little piece of JavaScript to say, are you sure you want to delete this? That's okay. That's a good function because you want to say to the user, when you delete it, it's gone. Like it's, we can do that with the web stuff too. You can actually put another screen up that says, are you sure? Like a little pop-up over your screen. That does the same thing. Okay, so that's one. Yeah.
What does it say?
Who knows? Depending on the person who's what website you're on, they can take it and sell it for all you know, right? I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Okay, anyways, but the basically way is they can save it inside variables and put it up on the save it anywhere. They can use it with JSON. They can do it with a database. They can do whatever they want, and they can send it as an SMS if they really want to too. They can send it to my phone. I can know your exact location, but when you went on my website on my phone directly through an SMS. Please don't do that. Please be very careful when you enter information. Okay, let's get back. So that's one. The other one is window confirm is one. The other one is prompt. Prompt is a different thing. Okay, so I confirmed I want to give away my information, and now let's say down here somewhere I want to prompt them from something else. So window.prompt. By the way, you don't have to use the window. You can just say prompt or confirm. I'm just using window so just to emphasize that it's part of the window object. But I could do alert by itself. I could do confirm. Right? I could do navigator. It's all part of the window object, so I can do that. I'm using window object explicitly, but you don't have to. All right? And you may have seen it somewhere else where it just says confirm or prompt or alert without the window. It's okay. I'm just doing it so you understand what object it's part of. It's because we're talking about the BOM, right? The browser object model. And the window object refers to the browser. So if I ask you a question on the quiz on Wednesday, right? And I say, what does the BOM refer to? Window, or something else, or the window refers to what? The browser, right? I've asked you these questions before. DOM, document, refers to the HTML page. Those are the two things you have to understand the difference of, right? Okay, let's check this out. So if I go window prompt. If I press open, I can see that it does a couple things. It returns a string, number one. So it actually returns what I type in. So this is, again, an easy way to get information from the user, right? Like an example would be, enter your name. Seriously. Do we ever want to do this? Absolutely not. Please don't ever do this in your web design. It's terrible, all right? I'm just saying, but some people, this is how we used to do it, right? Like, enter your name, right? And then it'll be, you know, what the string is, I can return or whatever. So I can just do one of these, and I can say var name is equal to, you know, whatever, your name. I can say var name is equal to window.prompt, and if you notice, if I hover over it, it detects it as a string because of duck typing, because we know that window.prompt returns a string. Therefore, your name by JavaScript says must be a string that I'm going to get, right? And now I can pump it out to console log like this. Console log, you typed, then plus your name, right? Which is going to pump out whatever I typed in there to the console. Let's try this out. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to refresh. Do I want to give my sensitive information? Yes, I do, right? And, hey, enter your name. All right, so Mike, right? And press OK. You typed Mike. So you can see how it went through the information, right? Why? Because I'm allowing it to happen. Is this a great way of getting information from the user? I don't think so, right? Because the user can block it too. Like if I say, for example, let's refresh the page. If I say cancel, I'm not getting information from the user. But let's say if I say OK, and I can click cancel here, I'm still not getting information from the user. I type no, right? So you can't guarantee that someone's going to enter the information you want, right? Not a great way. And once it's gone, unless you somehow make it so it pops up again and again and again by the way they do that, right? If the user doesn't answer a name, if it's null, keep on asking over and over again. Let's try it, right? So you can see how crazy it can be. And then we'll take a break, right? So here, like this. How would I do this properly, right? Instead of doing it like this, right, I can do a loop, var your name, right? So I can say it like this. So if your name, right? If your name is equal to, is it exactly equal to null, right? Or is not equal to null, then, or equal to null, exactly, null, or undefined, because it's not defined yet, right? Because right now I'm defining it here. So if it's not equal to, if it's equal to null or not, defined, then I can do that. Well, that means that while, here we go, this is bad. While your name, endless loop, yes. It will accept it. It's not, yeah, because string remember anything you get from the user, always from anything you use, phone, whatever, has to be converted from a string first into whatever it's going to be used. It's going to be parsed into that. So at first it comes in as a string, always from any UI that you ever use anywhere, ever, it's always a string first. Then it gets converted, all right? Know that, all right? That's number one rule of making UIs. All right, so if your name is equal to null, while your name is not equal to null, or equal to null, or, let's put this in, both conditions are true, or your name, for some reason or another, is equal to undefined. So both those conditions are possible, right? Let's put them in a proper bracketing order so we can see that it breaks up nicely, right? So this is the thing we can probably do to set this up. While it's not defined, right? Then I want to take this and put it here. Okay, what's the error that I'm getting? It says, oh yes, sorry. I had to do this. Okay, so while your name is equal to null, let's actually format my code here so you can see it better. While your name is equal to null or your name is not defined, first of all, let's see, is my name anything right now? You might think that because I'm defining it here, my name is not defined. But actually, because of JavaScript and hoisting, if I define something below, when I haven't defined it up here, actually I've defined it. Because what JavaScript is really going to do, I talked about this before, is going to take your name, and when it's interpreting everything, it's going to take my name and hoist it to the top of the file automatically for me. That's what it's called, hoisting, right? And when it hoists it to the top, it's going to be defined and I can use it. This is bad because you might think that it might be undefined, but actually it's not. So it's never going to do this, never going to be undefined, but it might be null, right? Let's check it out and see what happens. So as long as it's null, it's going to keep asking me for my name forever and ever. When it's not null anymore, it's going to skip out of this while loop. Let's try that. So we think. Refresh. Do you want to give your sensitive information? Yes, I do. Cancel. 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 If I prevent this from happening, though, be careful. If I click this, it'll never ask me for anything again. But if I press my OK, is it canceled? Nothing. So that's not a solution. So if it's nothing, then I also want to check for that as another option. Okay, so let me really make it rock solid, right? So instead of it being undefined, because it's never going to be undefined, let's say if your name is equal to nothing, right? So it's not null, but it's actually the empty string. The empty string. It's not null. It's not the same, right? Okay, so I pressed enter. Let's see if that works. Refresh. Okay. Press OK. Now it won't let me to, right? Press OK. Cancel. It's OK. Unless I type one letter or character, that's OK. Right?
So if we put space.
So it's OK. Anything else than the empty string. And you can keep checking, right? For those kind of things. Or, which is what we're going to talk about after the break, I can use a regular expression to make the user enter exactly what I want them to enter, right? And if I use a regular expression, then that will limit to it. I can last them forever. That's not the great. Please don't do this. Please, I'm telling you right now, do not make it so that you use a prompt, right, to gather information from the user in a permanent website. If you want to do it for testing reasons, like you want to use an alert and a prompt, right, even a confirm in some ways, right, that's okay if you're testing. Like if you're doing debugging for yourself, it's okay to use these things, these tools. If you're using it for web design, it's the worst web design opportunity you can ever. You're just creating a very bad thing for yourself. It's very bad form. If another web designer who knows anything about a developer looks at this stuff, he's going to go, "Oh my God," right? Like one of those. And he'll sigh as deeply as I just did. Like when he actually types to his friends, you know, when he does his text, he'll say in brackets, "Sigh. I went to a website and it's terrible," right? Because they used a prompt. Okay, I know this is not important for you guys, but for me as a developer, I take pride in being good, trying to be a good developer anyway, and this is really bad form. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some good form.